Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say, it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Hello, friends, and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday, so that means we will be joined here in just a second by Brent Beaird, our college football analyst, talking a little college football, what's going on a lot of spring practices. Second portion of the show, we'll be joined by some guy who won a Heisman Trophy in 1993. Member of the College Football Hall of Fame named Charlie Ward will join us as well. Some news and notes real quick. Gators beat FAMU last night in baseball 10-0. They decided on a 10-run rule because Florida has to travel to Tennessee today, long bus ride. And then I think FAMU has 4 conference games this weekend. Softball sweeps South Florida. They win 2 games here in town. And then also Florida basketball gets another big transfer from Penn State. He's a really good player, folks. The 3 guys they've added already made this team much, much better. But now let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, doing well. Glad to be with you as we discuss a lot of teams in the SEC and some maybe even in the ACC that are either on the verge of spring games or they're certainly in the midst of practice for the SEC games going on next week and the following week. SEC 17th and 24th, ACC for their spring games a little bit more spread out.
Yeah, before we get started talking college football, Brent, I don't know if you're a big – first of all, I want all our listeners and viewers to wish Brent a happy birthday. Yesterday was Brent's birthday. And I don't know if you're a big golfer, but I just got done watching Lee Elder, Gary Player, and Jack Nicklaus, hit their tee shots to start the Masters. And that was pretty cool to see. Lee Elder, the first ever black golfer to ever play the Masters, was a he was part of the ceremonies this morning, and it was pretty cool to watch.
Well, and listen, people need to Google these guys. I mean, when you see that in the beginning, it's that's cute. These guys are some of the older guys who are there representing their era. Look, as you know, Shane, these guys are absolute tremendous players, and in their prime, they're some of the best there ever was. So that would be worth going back and reviewing some of their careers.
Yeah, there's no question. And I know we talk a lot of golf on my show. I think a lot of our viewers and listeners that haven't been golf fans or enjoyed the game of golf, I think we've kind of brought them closer to enjoying it. But if you're going to watch, this is the weekend to watch. There's nothing like Augusta National. All right, Brent, college football, what's going on with the NCAA right now?
Well, here's some updates, and I give Brian Fisher, who is well connected with this, credit per some sources. The Division I Council, and this looks like next week, is going to be talking, and we've talked about this for months now, the one-time transfer waiver for 2021 and 22, players would need to transfer by July the 1st. So that's one thing that we certainly want to keep our eye on. They've got to flesh this out. We need more details about this, and maybe they don't have them yet. But I think it's significant, isn't it, Shane, that at least they're talking about this, and it looks like it's going to be up for a vote. But that timetable on it will be interesting. Now, the other thing that goes along with this, Fisher says, would be changes to phone call recruiting, June 1st, football recruiting summer camps, 1 hour on campus player evaluations, more days in the fall for off-campus recruiting. Again, we need to remember the dead period extends through the end of May. So what we've heard, Shane, right, for the last few weeks is that the dead period would end June 1st. So for obviously different sports, and he talks here about football and on basketball, about where the calendar would go. That is fascinating. Also adds the point here that he was told various NCAA committees and the national office continue to work on modifying their NIL proposals. There are a lot of moving parts with that. Name, image, and likeness, of course, is what we're talking about with this one. And it's still going to be a while, I think, before that sees a light of day across the board. But for what we know, Shane, the main two things we're interested in is going to be what happens with the transfer rule and how soon can we end the dead period.
Yeah, there's a lot of things still out there. That whole NIL thing, Brent, the more I think about it, it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see college coaches trying to get to the damn NFL as quick as they can.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So SEC spring meetings are usually held in Destin there at Sandestin Resort, I believe, but they're doing it all virtually this year, correct?
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing about that is the spring meetings in Destin had really gotten a lot of momentum over the past few years. And what I mean by that is the media actually found out that they could go to Destin and they could get a lot more one-on-ones with these coaches and frankly get a lot more information because and you can appreciate this, that the coaches are a lot more relaxed in Destin and they are a lot easier to talk to during that time. In Destin, you get a lot more television information, but they won't be having it as they have been, say, 2 years ago. It will be kind of a combination of some virtual, and it'll be interesting to see if the SEC network does something with this. Also, now we're waiting on further clarification for SEC Media Days in July. They're in the middle of July. They're going to be back in Hoover again this year. So how much access will the media have? We don't quite know that yet. But it would be great to be able to get back to more normalcy, obviously coaches and players and so forth. If they have it in Hoover, what they probably won't have will be the fans gathered. You remember that, Shane? Every year at Hoover, you would see at the bottom of the escalator a lot of different fans dressed in all kinds of garb, trying to get an autograph and so forth. I think because of COVID protocol, you won't see that. So we're still waiting to kind of see how these things are going to turn out.
We got a Facebook Live brought to you by Melvin Law here. John says the NIL will be what causes Nick Saban to retire, like the transfer portal made Roy Williams retire. I'm not sure if that's what made Roy Williams. Roy's up there in age. He's 70-something. But let me tell you something. Saban ain't going to retire because of the NIL, because Bama's going to have the most money to pay players to come, put their picture on the billboard or give them a truck from the Ford dealership, whatever it is. So it's going to be a mess. I'm telling you, it's going to be a mess. All right, Brent, we talked, you mentioned earlier, a lot of the SEC spring games are going to be a week from this Saturday, correct?
Correct, yes. The thing we're looking at is that there's going to be a bunch on the 17th. Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Georgia, LSU, and also Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, and then you've got Ole Miss, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Tennessee, and A&M are actually going to be on the 24th. By the way, Notre Dame has theirs on May 1st. So you're actually seeing some of these spring games now being kind of extended into May, which, if I can dovetail with this real quick, is one of the reasons that you're seeing guys like Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State who are actually saying, well, why don't, instead of having an inter-squad game, why don't we play other teams? So Gundy was asked if you like the ideal of, say, playing Arkansas or Texas A&M in a spring game. He said yes. So now, Shane, people would have just laughed at this a few years ago. This is a different day today. We may see some of this because athletic directors are looking for revenue streams, and you'd get a good crowd, and I think people would probably enjoy it if they did it. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but I think within 5 years or so, we may start seeing different teams actually playing a game.
Yeah, I mentioned this yesterday because I saw, I guess it was a tweet from the Paul Feinbaum show. It had all the SEC teams and who their opponents likely could be. I like the idea, but I think I think we will see it eventually, Brent, like you said. But I think the way they're going to have to go about it is, as I mentioned yesterday, you know how when the Jaguars go scrimmage the Patriots for 3 days on their preseason, I think it's going to have to be one of those control type games where, teams practice so much nowadays where you do not tackle and take a guy to the ground. I think, it's got to be an agreement between both teams. And this is just me thinking out loud here, but you play a regular game, but we really aren't tackling and taking cheap shots.
Correct.
Now
right.
they may want to play a real game. I don't know. I think it is something in the future that would be exciting, and you could sell tickets, as you mentioned, because schools need money.
Yeah, and look, I'm with you on this. I'm not saying it would be two-hand tag or flag football, but I think there will be something involved here that would cut down on injuries. And look, you may have some kind of a fun competition. For crying out loud, can you imagine? Let's just say Florida's receivers, and just pick another school having a 100-yard dash or something like that. I don't know what they would end up doing, but I think they're going in some direction like this in order to just take advantage of the ideal, which I think is a good one.
Yep. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. April's your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane or receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Brent Beaird here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Facebook Live here brought to you by Melton Law. Peter says, ask Brent, who does he think will have the most successful season of the 4 new head coaches in the SEC? Do we have 4 new head coaches?
Yeah, that's a great question. Brian Harsin at Auburn.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Obviously Vanderbilt. In that
South Carolina.
In Tennessee, and Josh Heupel.
That's right.
So I would probably say, boy, that's a great question. I'm off the top of my head, maybe Harsin at Auburn, just because he's got. Even though Shane and I both agree that Bo Nix needs a lot of work, but I think Tank Bigsby may be the great equalizer there because frankly, guys, Vandy doesn't have enough talent. South Carolina is going to be so brand new, and they've got just a whole new system like Tennessee does. Harsin might be, and they need a lot of work on their offensive line. I think defensive line, I think they would be okay. So I would just say Auburn probably by a little bit, simply because they've got the better tailback and they've got the better quarterback.
Yeah, we're speaking with Brent Beaird here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Don't forget, in the second part of today's program, we'll be joined by Heisman Trophy winner Charlie Ward from Florida State. All right, Brent, let's kind of swing around the SEC, all these teams that are in spring ball right now. Up in Tuscaloosa, I think they had a scrimmage the other day. The word out of there is Bryce Young looked pretty good. Yeah,
he did. He threw multiple touchdowns during the scrimmage, threw a couple of them to their tight end, Cameron Latu, so that they like what they've got there. I think the big question is going to be, who's the backup going to be? Is it going to be Paul Tyson, who is a relative of Coach Paul Bear Bryant, and also true freshman Jalen Moreau? They like him too. So they're trying to figure out some of their linebacker situation too. In this waiver thing that we talked about a few minutes ago, Tennessee linebacker Henry Toa, who is one of the better linebackers in the SEC and also the nation, it's still looking to transfer. Now, Mike Farrell of Rivals.com also mentioned that Toa is involved with Ohio State and also Alabama. So it's a little early to see where he's going to go, but that's worth mentioning also. Several defensive guys, DeMarco Helms had a good scrimmage, and he is really coming on well too. Bama's officially named a new assistant head coach who is in the group now. Drew Sabota is replacing Jay Graham, who they had a mutual parting of the ways. Sabota is from the Houston area, and for Saban, everything's about recruiting, Shane, as you know. So that's the major reason that Sabota is now on the staff.
Over in Arkansas, the head man of the Hogs is not very happy with his QBs.
No, and they're just not very accurate right now. The quarterback situation at Arkansas basically right now is between a couple of different guys that probably a lot of folks aren't real familiar with. Sophomore KJ Jefferson and freshman Malik Hornsby have not been really good in their latest scrimmage. Hornsby was 9 of 22 for 115 yards. Jefferson was 13 of 20 for only 90. And again, we don't know, was that against the first team, second team, mixture of both? Not real sure about that. But I still like what Pittman has done. These guys are young. They'll get more accurate as it goes along. But I still say, Shane, that's a team to keep your eye on. They're not going to win the West, but man, if they made as much progress in his second year as they did his first year, they're well worth watching, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. We'll see. We got a text on the Titan More text line. It comes from Daryl. He says, could you ask Brent who is his breakout QB in the SEC this year?
I think you could say Bryce Young of Alabama. He didn't play a lot last year, but he's very heralded. He's a 5-star coming from California. So I think you could really look at him. I mean, you could make an argument for Emory Jones, obviously, if things come together, being I think the kind of quarterback that Dan Mullen is used to having back there. You can certainly comment more on that. I know you have. So I'm going to throw those two off the top of my head as a couple of guys to watch for. And then you've got several other, schools like Tennessee, do they go with who's now, I think, a sophomore, Harrison Bailey, or do they go with Marr? You remember that kid, Shane, that played in the Swamp a couple of years ago, Brian Marr.
From Ocala.
So, that Daryl brings up a good point. We don't have as many established quarterbacks in the league this year, frankly, as we did last year.
But I know who the all-conference quarterback is going to be, and that's Matt Corral.
No doubt.
Yeah. We got another Facebook Live here brought to you by Metal. John wants to know, what are you hearing about Felipe Franks in the draft? And that's I kind of forgot about Felipe, but has Arkansas had their pro day?
Shane, that's a good question. I don't know that, and I haven't heard a whole lot about it. So I'll say this. He won't be in the first round with a lot of these other guys. But look, Felipe has he's a good specimen. He's got a good arm. If he can improve his accuracy, and frankly, I think he may be a little more mobile than people think he is. So I don't know. He could go in the middle of rounds and kind of be, if his accuracy improves, be a little bit of a steal for somebody. He can take his time, kind of learn a year or two, and kind of see where you can go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not aware if Arkansas's had their pro day yet or not, because obviously we're no combines this year. In Athens, Georgia has picked up a guy in the transfer portal, but they're still losing wide receivers to injuries.
Yeah, Tanky Smith is a cornerback from West Virginia who is transferred. He was a third-team All-American, which tells me that he is very good. He really fills a hole for them that was almost as wide as the Grand Canyon. I mean, they've got talent there, but they lost a lot of guys. Frankly, Tyson Campbell, Eric Stokes, DJ Daniel to the NFL draft, so they had to get someone from the transfer. Look, there's a lot we don't like about the transfer portal, but this is one of the things about the transfer portal that if you need a missing piece in a particular unit like your secondary, you can fill it this way, and this is what they did. This guy is incredibly good, so he will help them. Also, as Shane said, at wide receiver, they still continue to get injuries. Obviously, George Pinkins is probably out for most of the year because of the torn ACL. Arian Smith sprained his wrist, and he'll be okay. Jermaine Burton also had a hyperextended knee. I don't know if you've ever had one of those, Shane, but
No.
I know it's painful, and it's day-to-day type thing. And they've got some other guys, Marcus Rosemead, Jack Saint, who had that horrible ankle injury in the Florida game, and Dominic Blaylock, who also had the knee injury. These guys are not cleared to play. And again, part of what Kirby Smart did in his press conference was to calm Georgia media and fans down to let them know, yeah, these guys are hurt, but we will be okay when the season starts.
Yes, no question. In Lexington, Terry Wilson is gone. Is this Joey Gatewood's team finally?
Well, that's a good question. Will Levis, who comes from Penn State, is also involved here, for what we understand. So he may very well be in this mix too. That we talked about. Darryl mentioned the quarterbacks a few minutes ago. The Kentucky situation at quarterback is going to be interesting. And Shane, don't they really need to upgrade that position? I mean, Wilson was okay, and he's going to New Mexico, which probably tells you something. But hasn't that really been a missing piece for them?
It has, and I mentioned a lot of times last year, it wasn't very quarterback friendly either. It was never like there were any easy throws for the Kentucky quarterbacks. So we'll see. I think they changed their coordinators. LSU, a mess is going on there. We just saw what happened at Arizona in college basketball with them firing Sean Miller. I don't know if that's going to happen to Will Wade, but with all the issues the football program's under, now Eric Gilbert is talking about going back to LSU, Brent.
Well, and I'll give credit where it's due. Mike Farrell of Rivals talked about this earlier in the week, and what he said is Gilbert actually was on campus at LSU and visited with Ed Orgeron, and Orgeron mentioned they had a good meeting. Now, the people who cover LSU would tell you that Gilbert's situation is just off-the-field issues that he's got to get cleared up. We don't know what all those are. I mean, I've heard academics is some of it too, but hopefully he'll have time in order to get it done. What we don't know, and I want to be fair with Gilbert, is I hope he's progressing toward his degree. I mean, is he taking online classes? That's something I'm not real sure of, and I know that's his business, but that's also a big part of this. So nothing is definite with that. Could he just stay or go back to LSU? Yeah, that's a real possibility too. LSU still on the field, and they've got a game that's coming up too. Now the other thing is, and it's so deep and wide that this investigation is still going on with the Title IX. They've asked Orgeron today to come and testify in a sexual harassment situation. I think he just sent a statement, and people can follow that, frankly, through USA Today is where that the good reporting's coming with that. But Shane, look, it would take an hour to weed through that situation. But needless to say, it's still going on and will be going on for quite some time.
Well, we got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Metal Law. Our great listeners, Brent, you ask, you shall receive. Rick tells us Arkansas's pro day was in mid-March. Felipe vertical was 32 and a half. His broad jump was 9.9. He ran a 4.55. So they've already had their pro day. So they kind of, the Hogs kind of flew under the radar there. Not too many people were excited to cover the pro day there. What's going on with the two Mississippi schools?
Mississippi State has started their practice. Mike Leach came out and said that he was pretty quiet and pretty happy with how things are going so far. They've got a freshman quarterback, Daniel Greek, Greek, that he has been impressed with so far. He also was asked about Scott Lashley, and Leach said, the right tackle, that he is improving over this time. And look, the thing with Leach is they just had to do a lot of roster management, brought in some players, lost a lot of players. So that's just going to happen in your first couple of years. Ole Miss has been really impressed so far with their line of scrimmage. For their starting offensive linemen are coming back this year. And so that's going to be impressive for them. I've heard really good things about what they've done defensively. And Shane, you and I both know what they can do, and have talked about and I'm with you on Matt Corral. I think Matt Corral could be the best quarterback in the league, but what they have so lacked for so many years is a competent defense. So, I mean, the question is, Shane, with their offense, if they ever have a defense to stop people, how good could they be?
Yeah, they're very exciting on offense. Tennessee continues to have guys suspended, right?
Well, it's just unbelievable. The latest guy was Aaron Beasley, who's a linebacker, suspended from all football activities because he abused a 6-month-old kitten. So, look, the stuff that happens there right now, it's going to take them a while to, speaking of roster management, clean up some stuff there, too. They've still got 3 guys, Isaac Washington, Aaron Willis, Martavius French, well, actually 4, and Caden Salter, who are all suspended for various reasons. Salter is one of their quarterbacks, so they're not sure when he's coming back. So Josh Heupel is not only trying to get a spring in, but he's also trying to figure out who is eligible in order to participate in the spring.
Yeah. The Aggies, they're going to have a little halftime entertainment with Johnny Football playing a little flag football, huh?
Yeah, this is one of the greatest notes of the day here. A&M's doing something different during their spring game on April the 24th. They've invited a lot of their legends, as they call them, to come back. As Shane said, Johnny Manziel is going to be the quarterback for both teams. This is basically going to be a flag football game at halftime. And by the way, one of your head coaches is none other than Jackie Sherrill. People may forget, Shane, that they remember Jackie at Mississippi State, but Jackie was very successful at Texas A&M.
Yep, so he recruited me to go to A&M. He was the head coach when I came out. Yeah.
No doubt. So, and look, Sherrill really does get the credit for what he deserved as a head coach, and he was a good one. I know he had his share of questions about different things, but he is doing well, and that should be a lot of fun to see some of the highlights of that halftime game.
Yeah. Before we let you go, Brent, we're going to talk about our This Day in Sports at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. From now until May 31st, get our preventative maintenance plan for $169 and save almost 40% off the normal cost. Also, any maintenance scheduled between now and May 31st, you'll be entered to win a Nest thermostat installation. This Day in Sports in 1974. Brent, I bet you remember where you were. Hammer and Hank Aaron hits his 715th home run off LA Dodger Al Downing, breaking Babe Ruth's record in Atlanta. Did you remember seeing that?
Oh, I remember it well. If I remember that, it was, I think it may have been on a Tuesday night. I don't know why I remember that, but I just do. And Shane, the thing that always amazed me with that, because this would have never happened today, do you remember when Hank was circling the bases? There were actually two fans that came out of the stand and ran, I think, from second to third with him during that time. That's something that would have never happened today.
Oh, no chance at all. But yeah, I remember watching the video of that. Yep, those guys jumped the fence and were hauling around the bases. Brent, good stuff as always. Hope you enjoyed your birthday, my man. Enjoy watching the Masters this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
And Shane, real quick, 2 games this weekend from the ACC. Florida State has their spring game, and NC State has their spring game too.
Oh, wow. Well, we're right in the middle of it. Brent, be safe, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy it, Shane. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan MR hotline here from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We're going to take our first time out of the program. We come back, we're going to be joined by one of the greatest college athletes of all time. Your Heisman Trophy winner, Charlie Ward from Florida State, will be joining the program.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Regal Cinemas, Dave & Buster's, Le Macaron, Sushi Hana, Bass Pro Shop, and coming June of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're going to be joined by the 1993 Heisman Trophy winner, Mr. Charlie Ward. Good morning, Charlie. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Shane. Are you at the Masters?
I am. I wish I was there. It's one of my favorite weeks, Charlie. I know you can play it all, but how's your golf game?
It's the same as how much I practice or play.
I hear you.
It's don't play it a lot, so it's inconsistent. I do hit some good shots to say that I can come back, but I want to go back, but it's not something I do on a regular basis.
Gotcha. Well, Charles, when I bring athletes on here, I like to talk about your younger days. You grew up in Thomasville, Georgia, was a star athlete there. Was it a foregone conclusion that you were going to play for the Seminoles, or what other schools did you think about going to?
No, I mean, actually, the recruitment process, I started a little bit, I think, around my junior year. And it was, of course, back then, and maybe it is the same way today, I had a lot of letters just from different schools across the country. And then my senior year, when it rolled around, there were like 3 schools that it came down to. There was Florida State, University of Georgia, and Georgia Tech. And my buddy, Sean Jones, ended up going to Georgia Tech. He chose Georgia Tech, and then UGA and Florida State were the two schools that it came down to. And I chose Florida State because Coach Bowden was going to allow me to play basketball as well. And he had some history on his side for allowing guys to play basketball and football. Brad Johnson was a guy that was able to do it. And so I was going to hold him to his word. And, that's essentially one of the things that it came down to. But growing up, yes, we were, we were football fanatics, but we were closer to Florida State. We got all the Bobby Bowden highlights or coaches shows each Sunday morning, reviewing the game. And so we grew up watching the Seminoles, but I also grew up, going to FAMU games because my mom and dad and sister were alumni. Where my mom and dad were alumni at the time, but so we grew up going to Tallahassee a lot.
So, Charlie, you talked about Coach Bowden honoring you being able to play two sports. I know Dion played two sports. My high school teammate T-Buck played a little bit of baseball as well. But, your first couple of years, you were redshirted, and then you were the punter on the team, and you got to play basketball as well. How difficult was it to balance both sports? And do you think an athlete in today's world could play both sports at a major university?
It wasn't really difficult because it was something that I enjoyed doing. And when you enjoy doing something, it's really not a big chore. It's just a matter of making time, organizing your time. And I was grateful that I had people to help me in that area. But the key for me, Shane, was my second year, my redshirt year. And, when Coach Bowden gave me the opportunity to go out and play basketball full time because I was a redshirt, that gave me the foundation that I needed to establish myself as a basketball player. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times when guys are playing multiple sports, if they're trying to play basketball and football, a lot of times if your coach don't allow you to go and get established in that sport, whatever the second sport is, if it's baseball, it's a little easier. And even with that, you normally find yourself being a pitch runner or pitch hitter. You very rarely see the two-sport guy being in the field because that's just they don't have the time, and they're the guys that are there, they're going to put there. So I was able to establish myself as a basketball player my second year, which was very, very key because after that, I wasn't able to go back out to basketball until after football season was over. And if I didn't establish myself in that year that I had basketball full time, then I would have been just a reserve, a guy that comes out and didn't have an opportunity to, put my imprint on or have a position on the basketball team. And so a lot of times, the reason why I don't think it'll happen today is because most coaches aren't going to allow a guy to go and establish himself as a basketball player because he's going to end up having to go after football season. And when he goes after football season, the basketball coaches already have their guys that they've been working with and they're in shape and those types of things. And they're just fillers. And so what you find is most guys say this is a waste of my time. And then they end up having to choose what sport they want to pursue because as you know, times have changed. When we were coming along, you could kind of not go through the motions, but it wasn't as accelerated when it comes to, the workouts, the regiments, and all the different things that they have going on today. And so it's just to a point now where you're going to have to make a decision if you want to try to pursue something professionally. And I just think it's tough if you can't get your feet established or your foundation established on the team, whatever your second sport is.
Charlie, when you look back at your college football career, Florida State was running more of a pro-style system until you were inserted as the quarterback. And I want to say Mark Richt was the coordinator at the time. But y'all spread it out, and you were, in my opinion, the term dual threat. You were really the first one, I think, in college football. They didn't use that term back in 1993 and 92. But when you look back, I don't want to say if you were coming out now, do you think you would have tried to play in the NFL? Because when we came out of college, they wanted the big 235-pound pocket passer that could, big, strong arm. Now you see all these different Kyler Murrays, these different dual threat guys. Do you think you may have made a different choice and tried to play in the NFL instead of the NBA?
Well, I'm not going to say that my career in the NBA was not very good.
Well, no. I didn't mean it that way. It was very good.
I know what you're saying. It would be difficult. It would have been more of a difficult choice because now they're choosing guys very similar to me in the first round. And that was my stickler with, the NFL when I was coming out that, if I wasn't going to get chosen in the first round, then I was going to consider my other options. That was, something that I made a statement and I was sticking by it because I just felt like I had options. And that was the reason why I continued to play basketball in college my senior year so that I could keep my options open. But I'm happy, that guys my size, the way we played the game are getting opportunities now. But times will change. Like you said, when we were coming out, you had to be a certain size, had to be a certain play a certain way. And if you didn't, you were going to be a third or fourth round pick. That was just the way it was. And so it was just unfortunate at the time, but I made decisions based upon what I was going through at that time. But if it was the same way today, it would be a much more of a difficult decision.
We're speaking with Charlie Ward on the Titan More Hotline. Charlie, you look back to 1993, the year you win the Heisman Trophy, y'all win the national title, you won every possible college award there was. Y'all lost early in the year to Notre Dame, and I think the following week they get upset by Boston College, allows you to play for the national title. But you had a spectacular performance in the Swamp in 1993 against the Gators. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but that was Coach Spurrier's first home loss in his coaching career. What was more exciting, winning that game or winning the national title? I mean, the national title was like an 18-16. It was kind of a defensive struggle, but it had to be a lot of fun to perform the way you did in the Swamp.
Yes, I didn't know that was his first loss. I knew they were on a winning streak. It was like 22 or 23 home game winning streak when we came down. But winning a national championship, it's not easy. And so that, regardless of what the score was, it was a hard fought game, and winning that championship is not easy. However, beating the Gators in the Swamp is not easy as well, but it's also a great feat because, as a rivalry and have an opportunity to do that on their home turf was definitely a great feeling as well. They did the whole game. We controlled the whole game until the fourth quarter. And they made some miraculous catches and runs and different things to get them back in the game. And, I always tell our guys that I coach now here at Florida High that, whenever the game is in balance, or whenever there's a close or comeback or whatever the case may be, guys got to step up and make plays. You can say it's coaching, but when it's all said and done, guys have to step up and make plays when they need those plays to be made. And I was grateful that I was able to, make a play at the end of the game to seal it, throwing the ball to Warwick. And of course, there was other factors in there. People see my man Tamar. Of course, if you're a Gator, you're saying he's blocking in the back. If you're a Seminole, you're saying that's a great shield block. But when it was all said and done, there was no flag, and we were able to, get out of there with the win. So I say both games are, great feelings, but it's hard to go against winning a national championship.
Yep. Not only did you not win you won a national title, but in the NBA, as you mentioned, you played about 11 years, mostly with the Knicks, a little bit with the Spurs and the Rockets. But you got to play in the finals, the NBA finals, in 1999. On that team was it Patrick Ewing, Larry Johnson, and John Starks and Allen Houston. What was it like? Who's that?
Latrell Sprewell.
Oh, Latrell Sprewell. That's right. What was it like playing in the NBA finals, kind of comparing it to playing for a national title at the collegiate level?
Very, very similar. I mean, the excitement, the preparation, it was very similar. When you start talking about championship games, there's nothing like it. Unfortunately for, in the NBA, you got to win 4 games, 4 out of the 7, if you can get it to 7. But that was the challenge for us. And we had we had a tremendous run to get to the finals with being an eighth seed. I think that may be the last time an 8th seed gets to the finals ever. But we were fortunate to be able to do that. And we just ran into a team that was very, very good. They had 2 big guys, Tim Duncan and David Robinson. And then they had some quality guards as well. But we came in limping. Patrick was out that series. Larry had a knee sprain, and he was up and down and didn't finish the series. I think he may have started, but he didn't finish. And those 2 key players definitely helped to hurt us because we didn't have we had size. Marcus Camby, Kirk Thomas, those guys were there, but having Larry, having Patrick is more firepower for us. And so we just didn't have those guys available to play, and it hurt us. We played the best we could, and it just wasn't good enough. And that's something you have to live with, even though you like to get certain things back. But Avery Johnson was on that team, and he actually hit a key basket for them, either in game 4 or 5, which we were close, but it just wasn't meant for us to win that game.
Charlie, we've got a text here on the Titan Mark text line from you. It comes from Peter. Peter wants to know, Charlie, where do you keep your Heisman Trophy?
My Heisman Trophy actually is in the public library down in Thomasville. So if you're going through Thomasville, you can stop by the public library, and you'll be able to see it. It's been there since I won it.
That's awesome. So Charlie, after you retired, you dabbled in some coaching in both basketball and football, I believe, at a high school in Houston. Then you were hired as a head football coach at Booker T. Washington in the Pensacola area. And then you came to Tallahassee, and you're now, I think you're still the Florida State ambassador. Coach Spur is our ambassador. I don't know what y'all's job title is, actually, what you have to do to be the ambassador. But now you're the head basketball coach at Florida High, as you mentioned. What do you enjoy the most about coaching high school kids?
The thing that I enjoy the most is being able to help kids realize their goals. And the reason is because someone helped me. And I had coaches that were, on me about certain things, helped me to develop as a young man. And that was throughout. I've had a lot of great experiences playing high school, playing, in college, as well as in the NBA. And with all those experiences, I just want to be able to share those with the young men so that they can realize their goals and dreams. And sometimes it's not even about, we're in it to win championships, but it's bigger than that. It's about developing them into young men because one day the football, they're going to stop. And the type of person that they need to become is what's going to, carry them over. So that is my whole mission and goal, is to be able to make an impact on their lives from a spiritual standpoint, as well as, what it's going to take to be a young man to make it in our world, in our society. Be the best that you can be. And I want to be able to share my experiences, but also help them through their journey as well, just like I've had coaches help me.
Speaking of coaches that helped you, we got a few more minutes here with Charlie. Probably the last question here. What's Coach Bowden meant to Charlie Ward?
Well, he's been a great role model, an example of what a godly man looks like. I was blessed to have a dad that had those same qualities. I saw him help raise a lot of his players, just teaching them how to be a man. And Coach Bowden was an extension of that. I call them village dads. And he was an extension of my dad from home. And so to be able to have him as an example, just the way he cared for his players, took time to help them if needed, if asked, and giving guys opportunities. Even after you may have made a mistake, he was willing to give you an opportunity. And that was just based upon his relationship with the Lord. And so just that example alone, as far as being an ambassador for Christ, that's something that, I will admire in him. And I've also wanted to emulate because of just the success that he's had, not just on the football field, but in people's lives.
Yep, that's great stuff, man. Last thing for you. You've been coaching basketball at the high school level for a long time. Do you miss coaching high school football?
No, I don't. To be honest, when I was a high school football coach, I was not a very good one, and probably not a very good basketball coach. I just have, some really, really good players, and I don't miss. I enjoy the smaller group. When I was coaching football, even when I was at Westbury Christian in Texas, Houston, I had a small group, but there were challenges to that small group because you had to try to coax players to play. You were trying to recruit kids to come to your school because I was at a private school. And it was one of those situations where there was other private schools that had a lot more money and prestige. And, it was just that whole deal. And they were getting, the Marvin Wilsons and all the Waddles and all those guys in their school. And you're having to, play with what you have at the school. And so it was a challenge. I don't have a very good football record. I never got fired, but never had a good football record. I guess I left before I got fired. But I just enjoyed the process, because all the football programs that I took over, they were really at the bottom. And then I worked to try to build it up. And by the time I worked to try to get it to where it was consistent and established and respectable, God moved me to a different situation. So, but I'm grateful where I am today, coaching basketball. The money that we raise goes a long ways because you have smaller groups, and so there are a lot more things you can do as far as travel, experiences, team bonding type activities that you can do. And so I'm grateful for the support that I get in basketball. And I just, for whatever reason, I just like it. I mean, maybe because I played 13 years, or I played 11 and coached 2 years of basketball. And that was something that I'm more familiar with, even though I played football in college and high school. The numbers just say that basketball is something that I've been around a little bit longer.
Well, it's awesome stuff, Charlie Ward. We got a Facebook Live. Natasha says here, well, crap. I don't want to like a Noel, but Charlie is amazing. So
well, I appreciate it.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, my man. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, thanks. I was going to wear my orange and blue.
Knicks, New York Knicks?
Yes, my New York Knicks colors, just to make you feel comfortable.
All right, my man. Hey, be safe. We'll talk to you soon. That's Charlie Ward, your 93 Heisman Trophy winner, also a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, folks. We're going to have Steve Melnick, former All-American Gator golfer, talking about the Masters. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.